Oh man, coming up, it's our latest fell short of the top 40 countdown. I'm telling you, this has got to be the strongest year we've done so far. These tracks should have dominated the charts, but they were simply too ambitious, too dark, too haunting, too outside the box for mainstream radio. But we listen to these songs every single day. We got the story of a band who spent weeks in the desert recording a track so massive, so haunting, so mystical, it redrew the boundaries of rock and roll. And the band members have said it's their best song in their entire catalog. But it always takes a backseat to that much more popular pick. But then, years later, their famous guitar mortified fans when he let a Predator use it in a terrible rap song. In fact, the guitarist even was on the recording. We'll also reveal how one singer-songwriter's escape fantasy was actually a shocking confession of addiction and delusion. A cry for help disguised as an upbeat travel song. Plus, we'll cover the devastating moment when one of America's biggest bands closed one of their most successful albums with a bleak farewell. A ticking time bomb track that was a public admission that the band was about to implode. Let's do it. Hey, music junkies. Today we're returning to the 70s for our latest should-have-been massive countdown. The year we're going back to, 1975. And man, I cannot believe how strong this collection of songs is. You're going to be blown away that these tracks never cracked the top 40. You'll see what I mean. All right, let's get this thing rolling. So starting our 1975 countdown at number 10, I'm throwing out Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic. So after the release of their first two albums, Aerosmith was on the brink. Their self-titled debut and Get Your Wings both sold modestly, despite the early success of Dream On. And like record labels are apt to do, Columbia Records was losing patience with the band. Aerosmith knew their third album had to deliver. They were going to get dropped. They were going to lose their record deal. Toys in the Attic was their make-or-break LP for sure. A desperate, high-stakes gamble for them. The band's own chaos, fueled by drugs and internal tensions, was channeled directly into the music, though. And the result was what they believed to be the perfect distillation of their style. It was raw, it was aggressive, it was urgent, and it worked. Toys in the Attic became a sudden career-saving explosion, driven by tracks like Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way, turning Aerosmith from struggling near dropouts into stadium-filling rock icons. The title track, which kicks off the album, is not a simple party rocker, though. The phrase Toys in the Attic is a well-known euphemism for insanity or going crazy. And Steven Tyler and Joe Perry's song is a chilling narrative about a character experiencing a mental breakdown. Hearing voices and seeing things that aren't real. Tyler's vocal delivery is famously on edge, tilting towards the edge of insanity, perfectly fitting the theme of watching a mind fracture. Now, the song, it takes a dark psychological concept and transforms it into a gritty, energetic rocker, demonstrating the band's ability to turn chaos and mental turmoil into massive commercial success. Despite being the title track and the album opener, Toys in the Attic was never released as a single, and that's nuts. I don't know how the band couldn't do that. It's such a classic track. The album itself spawned two massive hits. Like I said, Sweet Emotion went to number 36, and Walk This Way would later hit number 10 when it was reissued in 76. But the title track never got a shot. Was it just too dark and unconventional for radio? It's hard to say, but with its themes of mental breakdown and its aggressive, unsettling energy, it almost certainly didn't fit the mold of top 40 at that point. But for fans, Toys in the Attic became one of Aerosmith's defining tracks and still is. All right, so coming in at number 9, we have the greatest female rocker and a guitar slinger sister, Heart with Dreamboat Annie. In 1975, Heart was an unlikely success story in the making. Sisters Ann and Nancy Wilson, along with their boyfriends and a ragtag collection of musicians, fled to Vancouver, British Columbia to escape the Vietnam War draft. Nancy had dropped out of college to join her sister in West Vancouver, where the band scraped by playing clubs and recording demos. They were American exiles making music in Canada, far from the industry spotlight. But their debut album, Dreamboat Annie, that was about to change everything. It was about to change rock history. Recorded on a shoestring budget and initially released only in Canada, the album gained traction on Vancouver radio before slowly creeping south in the US market. By 1976, Heart was poised for a breakthrough, a major breakthrough. Little ship of dreams. The title track, Dreamboat Annie, was Nancy Wilson's tender expression of her older sister's essence, a pure, beautiful, almost untouched dreamboat spirit. Ship of dreams. In their memoir, Kicking and Dreaming, the sisters revealed that the song was a term of endearment, a gentle snapshot of Anne's private self. This contrasted dramatically with the powerful, sometimes intimidating rock and roll siren that Anne had become on stage, most notably on Magic Man and Crazy on You on that album. But Dreamboat Annie captured the protective sisterly bond that existed before their rapid ascent to fame, a period that would subject Anne to intense public scrutiny and criticism regarding her appearance and her demeanor, and it was so unfair and ridiculous. Dreamboat Annie was by necessity a Canadian record produced by American exiles. Heart's music gained initial traction in the Canadian market first, making the album an unlikely border-crossing product of escape, pressure, and self-imposed isolation that eventually invaded the U.S. charts and U.S. radio. Despite its beauty and emotional depth, though, Dreamboat Annie was released as the album's fourth single in November of '76, but unlike its predecessors, the number 9 Magic Man and number 35 Crazy on You, it didn't break into the Billboard Top 40. And it didn't miss by much, though. Dreamboat Annie fell just short at number 42, but it should have been much higher. Coming in at number 8, I've got James Taylor heading south of the border with Mexico, a true classic. By 1975, James Taylor was one of the biggest singer-songwriters in the world. His early 70s albums, Sweet Baby James, Mudslide Slim, and The Blue Horizon, and One Man Dog, they'd spawn hit after hit after hit. There was Fire and Rain, You've Got a Friend, and Don't Let Me Be Lonely Tonight.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain. You've got a friend. I don't want to be lonely tonight.
I mean, his warm, introspective style had made him a household name, and of course his marriage to Carly Simon had turned them into rock royalty. But beneath the success, James Taylor was struggling mightily. His battles with addiction had been well documented, and despite periods of sobriety, the cycle of recovery and relapse continued to haunt him. It was during this turbulent time that he wrote Mexico, a very deceptively upbeat track that masked a much darker reality.
It sounds so simple, I just got to go.
He was in the throes of heroin addiction. Now, the most revealing line in the song, "Oh, down in Mexico, I've never really been, so I don't really know," that's a shocking confession that the entire track is a delusional fantasy. He's never even been there.
I've never really been, so I don't really know.
James Taylor, caught in continuous cycles of addiction and recovery on and on, he expressed the classic addict's desire to fly away and reinvent himself in an exotic, untainted location. The upbeat, casual tone of the music is a dramatic mask for the dark truth.
It sounds so sweet with the sun sinking low.
The singer is dreaming of a simple escape because his actual life had become too complex and painful to face. The song is less about travel, and it's just more about the psychological need for total erasure and rebirth that he had not yet achieved.
Light up the night, make everything all right.
It didn't hurt that this song had two of the best background vocalists ever, David Crosby and Graham Nash, two members of the highly successful Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. They contributed their signature harmonies to Mexico. At the time, they were the most in-demand session vocalists in the industry, their harmony blend being the key ingredient for James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, and Carole King.
The sun's so hot, I forgot to go home.
I mean, James Taylor got two of the biggest names in music to provide an essential layer of sound to this song, treating them like session players, locking in his own place at the center of rock's most glamorous. Released as the second single from his album Gorilla, Mexico was never a top 40 hit. came up 9 spots short, number 49.
Hard times are hard. Oh, down in Mexico.
Much too low for this classic track. How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You claimed all the chart glory for that particular album, going top 5.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
That said, Mexico, it did go to number 5 on the AC chart, so there's that.
Mexico, and a honky-tonk down in Mexico.
Okay, so at number 7, I got Eagles with After the Thrill Is Gone, one of their best songs.
After the thrill is gone.
Coming in the mid-70s, the Eagles were flying high. Their first 3 albums had yielded multiple hit singles, and their fourth, One of These Nights, was shaping up to be the biggest commercial triumph yet. The title track would hit number 1 on the Hot 100. Lion Eyes would reach number 2. Take It to the Limit peaked at number 4. 3 huge hits. I mean, they were selling out arenas and they were owning mainstream radio. But beneath the surface, beneath the success, cracks were forming. The relentless touring, the pressures of stardom, and creative tensions between Don Henley and Glenn Frey were chipping away at the facade. Success had arrived, but it didn't feel the way that they thought it would. And After the Thrill Is Gone captures that disillusionment perfectly.
After the thrill is gone.
It's a bleak farewell that the band deliberately chose to close One of These Nights with. The lyric, what can you do when your dreams come true and they're not quite like you planned? That's not about a girl. It's about the band themselves.
And it's not quite like you planned.
It's a shocking public admission that the enormous success that this band had achieved had become hollow to them, foreshadowing the internal feuds and burnout that would soon enough cripple the group and break them up for a long time. The song came directly from Henley and Frey's shared psychological state. Both were struggling with the pressures of maintaining stardom and their grueling tour schedule, and they let us in on the secret.
Time passes and you must move on.
While often attributed primarily to Henley's lyrics, the emotional depth was rooted in their mutual painful realization that their thrill for the band, for the fame, it was just gone. This song represents one of their final honest collaborations before their writing partnership began to fray due to the very success that they were singing about.
I'm singing for the sake of a song.
After the Thrill Was Gone was never released as a single. It should have been. Therefore it never cracked the top 40. Instead, it was paired with Take It to the Limit as a B-side. One of the greatest B-sides ever, for sure.
One more time. You're afraid you might fall out of fashion.
The Eagles were smart enough to know that this wasn't as commercial as their other stuff. It was an artistic statement, a nearly 4-minute brutal confession buried deep in an album of radio-friendly hits, though it's such a great song.
The thrill is gone. Whoa.
Coming in at number 6 on the countdown, it's a song you'll be shocked was not a hit. In fact, the band Rush only had 1 hit, and it isn't one of their most well-known songs. It was New World Man. But Fly By Night, it wasn't a hit. At this point, there was just 1 album into their career, and Rush was already at a crossroads. Their 1974 self-titled debut had gained modest traction, but original drummer John Rutsey, he was out. Health issues and creative differences led to his departure just as the band was preparing for their first major tour. Enter a young genius named Neil Peart, a 22-year-old drummer from Ontario with a flair for complex rhythms and philosophical lyrics. Peart's arrival wasn't just a personnel change. It was a total transformation for the band. And thank God, within weeks of joining, Rush hit the studio to record their second album, Fly By Night. It all went down in a single intense week in December of '74. What emerged was a band reborn, shedding its blues rock roots for something far more ambitious, right? Fly By Night marked Rush's second beginning. Peart's drumming introduced immediate technical complexity and sophistication, while his introspective, searching lyrics replaced the hard rock cliches of the debut. Rutsey had preferred conventional rock and was really incompatible with the band's new direction, so his departure created a sense of creative urgency. Rush had to shed its old skin instantly to survive in this environment. The title track, Fly By Night, captured this transformation perfectly. Alex Lifeson's guitar solo was sharp and aggressive, a decisive statement contrasting with the more blues-based work of their debut. Known for his flashes of dazzling spontaneity, twisted humor, and emotional fire, Alex Lifeson unleashed his full creative force on this track, and it was awesome. It's still awesome. Since the entire album was recorded and mixed in 3 intense weeks during a break from touring, the solo, it was likely a quick, high-pressure, single-take moment of inspiration. It showcased the new Rush, their ability to create concise, technically brilliant work under tight deadlines. Fly By Night was released as a single on April 23, 1975. It stalled out at number 88 on the Top 100. Made better traction in Canada where it hit number 45. But the song's progressive structure and pure cerebral lyrics, it made it a bit of a tough sell for mainstream radio. But Rush wasn't chasing hits. They were building a devoted fan base through relentless touring and truly ambitious albums. Fly By Night became a live staple and a fan favorite, and that was more than enough, and of course, a classic rock staple. All right, so we've made it halfway through the countdown, and at the 5 spot, gotta give Fleetwood Mac some love.
Till the landslide brought me down.
By 1974, after years of personnel changes and shifting lineups, drummer Mick Fleetwood had just fired guitarist Bob Weston. It left the group without direction, a clear direction, or a clear future. Meanwhile, across the country, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were facing their own disaster. Their duo album, Buckingham Nicks, it was a commercial flop. It failed miserably. Polydor Records dropped them. Broke and fighting constantly, the couple retreated to Aspen, Colorado, where Nicks was forced to confront a harsh reality. Their music career was probably over. In fact, Stevie thought it was over. She called her parents to come pick her up. She was trying to accept it. Now, it was in Aspen, staring out at the mountains, that Stevie Nicks wrote her magnum opus, Landslide.
Well, I've been afraid of changing.
She was approaching 27 years of age and spiraling into existential dread. Am I going to be a waitress? Am I going to be a teacher? Am I going to have a job that makes me happy at all? The song's central line, I'm getting older too, that captured the exact moment of doubt, written as she believed her dreams were a landslide about to take her down. But of course, when you hit rock bottom, you can only go up. Then came the turning point. Mick Fleetwood was invited to hear Nicks and Buckingham rehearse. After starting off with Rhiannon, Nicks played Landslide, and Mick Fleetwood was so moved by its vulnerability, by its honesty, he cried. We have to have that song, is what he said.
Build my life around you.
That raw emotional conviction, it sealed the deal. Nicks and Buckingham joined Fleetwood Mac, and Landslide became the unexpected folk acoustic lifeline that saved this band.
My reflection in the snow-covered hills.
Landslide, it appeared on Fleetwood Mac's 1975 self-titled album, but it wasn't released as a single in the US, so it never had a shot at the top 40. The album, it spawned 3 US singles, Over My Head, Rhiannon, and Say You Love Me. All of them cracked the top 20. But Landslide, with its introspective lyrics and stripped-down arrangement, didn't get a shot until 23 years later when a live single was released from The Dance from 1997. Even then, it only reached number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it's been covered a million times. But for all of us fans who discovered it as a deep cut on the album, Landslide became one of Fleetwood Mac's most beloved deep cuts, a timeless meditation on change and resilience. and truly one of their best songs. And it's crazy that it didn't chart or get released.
On a landslide, bring it down.
All right, in at number 4, I got AC/DC with A Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll.
It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
AC/DC's first 2 albums, High Voltage and 1975's TNT, both from 75, had turned them into homegrown heroes, with electrifying live shows and Bon Scott's charismatic frontman swagger leading the charge. But breaking internationally was another beast entirely. When Atlantic Records picked them up for a worldwide deal, the label assembled a new version of High Voltage for international release, cherry-picking tracks from both Australian albums. Should have been AC/DC's triumphant global debut. Instead, Atlantic made a controversial decision, really controversial. It would leave one of the band's greatest anthems gathering dust. TNT's It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll was written as AC/DC's mission statement, a gritty autobiographical tale of the band's grueling rise through Australia's pub circuit. Bon Scott laid it all out. The endless travel, the sleazy motels, the financial struggles, the sheer exhaustion of chasing rock stardom. But what made the song truly unforgettable was his audacious bagpipe solo. Am I right? Scott delivered a full-throated Celtic wail in the middle of a hard rock anthem. It was truly bizarre, but it was brilliant and absolutely AC/DC. And the bagpipes were played by Bon, even though he barely knew how to play them. As many of you know, Bon actually started out as the band's chauffeur. Then he jumped on stage one night and sang with the band, and he was so explosive that by the end of that song, he was AC/DC's new singer, and that's how they found him.
That's how it goes. Playing in a band, it's a long way.
But Atlantic Records wasn't so sure about this song. Fearing American audiences wouldn't accept a heavy rock track with bagpipes, they cut the song from the US High Voltage combo album. American fans got TNT instead. While the band's defining Australian statement, it was sidelined.
TNT, I'm dynamite. TNT.
And because It's a Long Way to the Top was excluded from the US release of High Voltage and never issued as a single in America, it didn't have a chance to crack the top 40. Atlantic's decision to censor the track meant most American fans didn't discover it until years later. By then, AC/DC had already broken through with other hits. But the song that best captured their rise, it remained criminally overlooked in the States. Heading into the number 3 spot, I've got the boss, Bruce Springsteen, with one of my favorites, Thunder Road. So, Springsteen's first 2 albums, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, and The Wild, The Innocent, and The E Street Shuffle, they'd earned critical praise. But man, they turned out disappointing sales. Columbia Records was losing patience fast, and Springsteen knew his 3rd album it had to deliver or he was gone. The pressure was crushing, though. Out of that desperation, though, came Born to Run, an album that would redefine his career and establish his place in rock history, and really one of my favorite albums ever. Leading off that record, side 1, track 1, Thunder Road, a song that almost didn't exist in the form that we exactly know today. Thunder Road began life as something far darker. Originally titled Neon Madness, the early version depicted characters already drowning in the city's grime, desperate and cornered. The song's heroine wasn't Mary at all. She was Chrissy, or possibly Christina. Early demos confirmed this. And that screen door slams, Chrissy walks out in her dress. But, Springsteen made a brilliant choice here. By changing the name to Mary, the most common woman's name in Western history and a rock and roll staple, he transformed a regional story into something far-reaching. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one Jersey girl escaping with her boyfriend. It was a universal quest for salvation and freedom, truly. It could have been the South, it could have been the Midwest. The song's closing line also went through a dramatic shift, though. That tender, iconic invitation, roll down the window and let the wind blow back your hair. That That was originally a frantic command. Shut down the window and hold on tight to me. Springsteen ditched the desperation and the fear, and he rewrote Thunder Road as a sweeping epic of hope, turning urban sleaze into an American saga of possibility. And no matter what you think of Springsteen's artistry, he gets that possibility. He understands possibility. That's what rock and roll is all about. Freedom and possibility. Now, despite its towering reputation today, Thunder Road was never released as a single in America, and I don't understand why. It's such a great song, so it didn't hit the top 40. Born to Run did spawn 2 singles, though. The title track reached number 23, and 10th Avenue Freeze Out stalled at number 83. You know, like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and even Sinatra before him, Bruce Springsteen was an albums artist. Thunder Road was meant to be experienced as the opening statement of Born to Run's journey. And for fans who took that ride, it became one of rock's greatest opening tracks. It's also a song that has a famous opening line that even mega fans have been singing incorrectly for years. Even me. I found this out a few years ago. The line is, the screen door slams, Mary's dress waves, right? Wrong. Sounds like waves, but the real lyric is, Mary's dress sways.
The screen door slams, Mary's dress waves.
I had no idea. I've sung it Mary's dress waves, and I even bet a friend of mine $500 that it was waves, and I found out later, sadly, to lose that bet. Crazy. I've been singing it wrong. A lot of people have been. Oh man, you will not believe these top 2. So speaking of Led Zeppelin, we've made it to number 2, runner-up position, Bridesmaid, and I got Kashmir, the jewel of physical graffiti. So here's something that might surprise you. When it comes to Led Zeppelin's crowning achievement, the band themselves would tell you that it's not Stairway to Heaven. They would say without a doubt, it's Kashmir. Robert Plant put it plainly. I wish we were remembered more for Kashmir than Stairway to Heaven. Amen.
He's buying the stairway to heaven.
For Plant, this track captured what Led Zeppelin's essence was musically and spiritually. Jimmy Page saw it the same way. He called Kashmir the moment when Led Zeppelin broke through the ceiling of traditional rock. This wasn't just another Zeppelin track. It was new music. No one had ever heard anything like it. It was mystical. The band even admitted that they felt like they were possessed by some strange entity when they created it. Jimmy Page merged Eastern-influenced modal riffs with orchestral textures and hypnotic rhythms into something truly monumental. This wasn't about flashy guitar solos. It was about creating an ethereal sonic journey, building tension and release. It is a transcendent experience altogether. I mean, the music was so intense and otherworldly, Jimmy Page said it scared the hell out of him. He didn't know what the hell the thing was. The inspiration hit Plant during a drive through the Moroccan desert. He envisioned the track as a metaphor for exploration and inner pilgrimage. Plant explained, and I quote, "The whole deal of the song is not grandiose, but powerful. It required some kind of abstract lyrical setting about life being an adventure and a series of illuminated moments." That spiritual exploration was worlds away from the Tolkien-inspired mysticism of Stairway to Heaven, for sure. Plant actually grew tired of Stairway over the years, weighed down by overexposure and nostalgia and questions about it. But Kashmir stayed timeless. Starting with their 1975 tour, Kashmir became the centerpiece of Led Zeppelin's concerts. I mean, the defining moment that captured their imperial sound. Page called it the perfect marriage of music, lyrical imagery, and performance. Amen. Where Stairway is a beautiful ballad, Kashmir is a universe in and of itself. It stretched the boundaries of rock into something just mythical. It's the most haunting song of its time. Fans were mortified, though, decades later when they heard a Diddy song called Come With Me for the movie Godzilla that used it. I mean, most thought it was just a sample. You know, it'd been sampled without permission like Vanilla Ice with Queen and Bowie. But the most disturbing thing is Jimmy Page was in on the joke. Page had agreed to collaborate with Diddy, then known as Puff Daddy. He actually helped Diddy secure the rights and play guitar on the new version. He even helped push the song. He played it on SNL with Diddy.
Close your eyes, come with me.
I mean, it was a shock to see Jimmy Page do this. And of course, neither the song nor the movie nor the rapper have aged well, especially the predatory rapper. Of course, Jimmy Page didn't know that back then. But anyway, it's just crazy. All right, we're here, the number one song, and it was a toss-up between Kashmir and this one. On any given day, they could have swapped places, but I got Pink Floyd with Wish You Were Here.
How I wish you were here.
Can you believe none of these charted? Anyway, coming off the history-altering release of The Dark Side of the Moon in '73, Pink Floyd had reached the absolute summit of rock stardom. By 1975, Dark Side had already been camped out on the Billboard 200 for over 2 years, selling millions and turning the band into a global phenomenon. But you know, success came with a cost. The pressures of fame, relentless touring, and creative exhaustion were taking their toll. Roger Waters, in particular, was grappling with a gnawing sense of emptiness. The band was titanic, yet something felt hollow. It's kind of a theme today. It was in this state of total disillusionment that Roger Waters began writing Wish You Were Here, a song that would become one of Floyd's most misunderstood masterpieces. I mean, you know, most people assume that Wish You Were Here, it's a straightforward tribute to Syd Barrett, right? You know, the band's original leader who had spiraled into mental illness and left the group years earlier. I mean, yes, Barrett's ghost looms large over this track, but Waters has spent decades insisting that that reading, it's incomplete.
Wish you were here.
For Roger Waters, the song was actually a self-indictment, an internal argument about his own creative and emotional absence. Lines like, "We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl year after year," were a desperate cry about the band's commercial isolation.
Swimming in a fishbowl, year after year.
The verse, "Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts? How I wish you were here." That was Waters asking himself if you know, he'd become a hollow shell, trading his integrity, his hero self, for the safe, commercially successful ghost of what the band had become. Boy, he thought deeply into things, did he not? Waters has said that reducing the song to just a tribute about Syd means missing the point of his deepest anxieties about losing his soul to the rock machine.
Welcome to the machine.
It also contains what may be the greatest opening line of the 70s. So you think you can tell. Heaven from hell, blue skies from pain.
Hell, blue skies from pain.
And honestly, we all forget what Roger Waters said about the song as well. He said it's a nice little country song. He's exactly right. The Kings of Progressive Rock wrote one of the greatest country songs of the genre.
So you think you can tell?
I Wish You Were Here wasn't released as a single in the US though. Have a Cigar would get the nod instead, which I don't really get.
Yeah, boy, have a cigar, you're gonna go far.
Pink Floyd was, of course, an albums-oriented band. We've talked about that, building their legacy on sprawling conceptual LPs rather than, radio hits. The song's 9-minute runtime with its extended acoustic intro and layered atmospherics was simply too ambitious for radio, but Floyd didn't need hit singles, right? Wish You Were Here became the title track of their 75 album. It debuted at number 1. It sold millions, proving once again that their power was in their album experience, not the singles chart.
Do you think you can tell?
But had they released it and put out an edited version, there's no doubt in my mind it would have been a top 5 hit. It's just that beginning, that intro, it's truly the music and lyrics together, greatest out there. Well, that's my top 10. Can you believe those songs didn't make the top 40? Just crazy. But make sure to leave us a comment. Leave us your memories of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. And what do you think? Did I get it right? Kashmir versus Wish You Were Here. I mean, talk about one of the toughest choices I've ever had to make on here. Let's have a great discussion about your memories and your stories behind this down below. We invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.